Hey guys, what's up? It's Jules Gill here for WhatCulture.com, joined as ever by the only man who will make me laugh uncontrollably, Scott Tailford.
Oh, that's very nice,
that is a relevant piece, because today, on this gloriously grey Saturday morning, we are here for the What Culture Film channel to talk to you about a potential sequel that could be very, very impressive. I'm speaking, of course, about the fact that the Joker may well be getting a sequel. Scott!
Yes.
Take it away.
Well, so Mr. Todd Phillips, director Todd Phillips, was talking to Slash Film, and obviously the idea of a sequel has kind of been on the table for a while. It's been talked about basically because Joker is on the verge of about to break $1 billion at the box office. It's currently on $995 million. It might go a bit over, but when there's this much money on the table, this many conversations are happening, he was talking to Slash Film, and they said, you know, what about this potential of a sequel in the end? He said that it couldn't just be this wild and crazy movie about the Clown Prince of Crime. It would have to have some thematic resonance in a similar way to the one that this one does, because I think that's ultimately why the movie connected. It's what's going on underneath. So many movies are about the spark, and this is about the powder. If you could capture that again in a real way, that would be interesting.
Now, as I'm sure that loads of people listening to this will suddenly be very, very excited about this.
It's about the powder, Jules.
We do have to temper that because it might be wet powder, and wet gunpowder doesn't go off.
Let me throw one more quote at you.
Sure thing, and then we'll break it down.
So Joaquin Phoenix, straight after the movie's initial release, he was talking to a podcast called The Envelope, as was reported by the LA Times, and he was asked then, same thing about a sequel, because when Phoenix first came on board, it was only for one movie. The whole point of this thing was that it would be a one-off thing.
Yes.
Had nothing to do with Batman and whatever else. Lols in the way that the script went, because the Waynes are in it.
Yes.
Anyway, and so he, he was asked after this, like, would you come back and do some more? And Phoenix said, even though it was, he was only coming on board for one movie, because of how much fun he had on set and everything else, there was a quote from that Envelope podcast where he said, "There's way too much to explore." So he's up for it. He seems like the two of them kind of want to come back.
Now, that is absolutely fair. There's a lot of reasons to come back. I mean, this is a Golden Lion Venice Film Festival winning film. It is definitely going to be in line for the Oscars and stuff, like more awards further down the line around that time. But there is a problem. While there is tons of money on the table, as you have said, and the stars and the director seem potentially keen to return, is it the best thing for the franchise to actually return it? Because the idea of a self-contained narrative, in my eyes, it worked so well because it was a definitive start and a definitive end. There's a sense of myth about this. A lot of people were very, very upset when they announced this film in the first place because it was demystifying the Joker's origin.
True.
Then people accepted the fact that if it was done in such a way that was not a comic book movie, but told as a real sort of like developmental piece, that it would be treated with respect and it would come out as a great piece of role, which it did, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Do we need more of the shroud lifted? I feel the more that we look into this character, the less
the more you
return.
get away from what he is. Yeah.
We don't, right, if you look at the two sort of like sides, you've got Joaquin Phoenix's Joker on one side, and you've got the Juggalo pimp Joker on the other side.
He's been forgotten on the left-hand side.
But you see what I mean? Those two are the two sort of paradigms. Like, one trod the line of being a character piece, the other wanted to be a gimmick. And I worry that we will be moving more towards that, because the more action, the more sort of like crazy over-the-top sequences, the more times that we try and make our audiences laugh through shock violence, the more you're turning him into a joke, which is not what you actually want him to be. You want him to be a serious, credible threat.
Yeah, and one of the things that like works in this film's favor is because we kind of knew it was a one-off. And I think they did when they were filming it, and they weren't like leaving sort of threads behind to pick up later on, and they weren't leaving stuff like there's nothing about it that feels unfinished. And also, if you look into it, things like people have picked up on a whole bunch of different like Easter eggs in it, like the clocks in the movie. There's like 3 or 4 clocks that you can see in different scenes.
On, like, set time.
They're all at the exact same time, which kind of reinforces the fan theory that it's all inside his head the whole time, which was my read at the very end of the movie when it zooms out and he's still in what looks like Arkham or a different facility.
Yes.
I think the whole movie is in his head anyway, and he's just talking to his therapist about the potential of like, the idea that all of these things would happen, all this anarchy would happen if you let me out on the streets, which is why he's still on the inside at the end, but lovely sunny Gotham's just on the other side of the glass.
One of the very few times that we get to see Gotham like in the daylight and in like a pleasant situation, which is quite interesting.
And I think that if that's the thing, if they went back to it, it, and then you literally have to take forward. You'd have to clarify that potentially open-ended fan theory nature of the way the film ends by literally saying like, okay, well this was in his head, but now he's going to go do this, or this stuff did happen, and then now we need to go back to him and do it all over again. Joker only really works when he has something to go up against, and obviously it's society and general sort of like hierarchical systems in the first movie, but that like quote unquote doesn't work the more you stretch it out. It's why as far as I know, there haven't really been any iconic Joker runs in comics. It's always been him versus Batman. He needs something to bounce off.
It's a strange film because of the fact that it's a power fantasy film, but it's about the dangers of power corrupting and how giving it to the wrong people, in essence, could spark off horrible things that hurt innocent people. And I think that a sequel to that film will not be able to grab the same sort of emotional core and complexity the way that it's been done. I'm not saying that the film is faultless. There were a few
I'm not
things.
massive on it.
I really enjoyed my experience with the film, but I feel like the more you dive into it, the more that you say that this is like the art house of Batman, the more sort of pretentious that you potentially could make it, which could devalue it even more. And I don't know where they could take the story, because if you follow the same character, then it's going to potentially pick up straight off where the first film ended, and it's him getting out and causing all sorts of chaos. It's still too young for Batman to stop him. Therefore, we need a time skip, which means that Joaquin Phoenix playing him would have to be an older Joker, which therefore wouldn't make too much sense.
I know, and it's things like that where they obviously there was a lot of the Wayne stuff in this, as much as they, like I said, it was going to be this disconnected one-off thing, and we know that Robert Pattinson is now cast as the new Batman.
Yes.
So maybe there's something they can do with a time skip and matching them up.
I'm sorry, but like unless they use some incredible de-aging thing, like, Joaquin Phoenix is a leathery man.
He is a very
and I'm
leathery
saying that like not in a harsh way. He's got a really weathered face and it works really well. But I feel like Robert Pattinson, he's not looking as young as he used to either. So I can't really buy into the fact that he'll be like a 16-year-old Batman if that's even the most credible time skip.
No, I don't think that necessarily. That's the thing though. It's like, where do they go with it? Obviously, Warner Brothers are going to be breathing down their necks, going, "Look, you've now got this massively bankable version of Joker that quote unquote lives up to the Heath Ledger one, or at least starts to come close to it in a way that the Jared Leto one never even got anywhere near." So I imagine on the production side, or sorry, the producer side, they'll be looking at it and going, "Okay, can you just slip this in? Can we do something with this with Batman as well?" Because the idea of this Joker and Robert Pattinson's Batman, just for me, like looking at them as actors, them going off against each other would be phenomenal. I don't think that's where they'll go. But the thing that Philip said about thematic resonance and like, you know, the general message and the motivation behind this movie, that it was this sort of commentary on restrictions to modern day comedy and what you can and can't say and whatever. What if Joker was the spearhead behind the counterculture voice? I think that he made that point in the first movie pretty pretty leadenly as far as I was concerned. Like the scene in the talk show is him just sort of berating the audience.
I mean, it all boils down to that, and that's the most on-the-nose message that you can give.
Where do you go from there, though? Just reiterate it again?
I worry, because if they did it again, but even more on the nose, you will end up sort of sparking off a debate, which is
it's kind of that debate anyway.
The debate is like, it's in principle like everything is funny and allowed until it actually is spoken out loud, because then it becomes a reality. You're taking something from a point of inception into a reality. But as soon as you put it into that real space, it's judged by every societal norm that's around you. This film, it is a sequel. If it just reiterated the same thing, I can't see as being successful, because people will be like, what are you saying that's new?
I know, and as someone who adores stand-up comedy and the art of stand-up and boundary-pushing comedy and things like that, I think that any comedian who repeats their same message over and over again, it does get watered down. And I'm going to cite any particular notable figures, but you do see them on Twitter where it's, you are just repeating yourself. And I think it's hard. I think obviously I get what Phillips means about it. There needs to be a real reason for it to exist. And they had something to say with the first one that they just might not, it'll just echo in the second one.
Now, not to fantasy book a film, but I'm just saying that there is a potential way to get this going, in the sense that you carry on with Joaquin Phoenix. Batman is not anything to do with it. It's him trying to, like, I don't know, create the sort of like rise of the anti-Justice League, as it were, like collecting together all the other misfits and seeing what sort of carnage they can cause. And then at the very end, like, he just has to die, or he just disappears, or because it just doesn't make sense against the time scale.
And
it's the only thing I can think of that would actually try and tie into the narrative.
And that lets them sort of like keep it on the villain side. It's weird, because I think that one of the biggest misnomers is going to be what Joaquin Phoenix wants to do, because he's such a brilliant, thought-provoking actor. He picks his projects so specifically, and he doesn't really need to rely on paychecks that much at this point.
Yeah.
So he's not going to stay along for like a whole bunch of movies in the future.
Well, Joaquin Phoenix actually had a few interesting like requests when they were making the Joker, which actually makes me feel like while he did an incredible job, there's still potentially a little bit of the character that he doesn't get, because he insisted to the director that they end with a gag reel originally, that the film was going to end as in like, you know, him running off in the asylum, and then it was going to go up to the credits, and the credits were going to be broken up by a ton of bloopers and outtakes from the film. No, can you not see how weirdly tonally different that is?
It would like, it wouldn't have worked.
But that's what he's approaching it with, which makes me think that like he totally got the character when he was playing him, but there's still a misunderstanding potentially of like...
It's weird. I mean, there's a great clip with Phoenix when he's on some talk show, and it's, I think it's Kimmel, and Kimmel's like, oh, we've been sent this clip of you practicing a line, and it's from Todd Phillips, and
he gets really awkward about it,
Well, he pretends, I mean, it's all very much in the same vein as the movie that Joaquin Phoenix did called I'm Still Here, where for a few months...
He just pretended that
he was starting a rap career, and it was basically one big dissection of how much celebrity culture, how much we'll just follow people to the depths of hell for the sake of some clicks and headlines. And I really like what he was trying to do there, even though I don't think the execution was great. But same thing in that Kimmel interview where he's playing with the idea of like awkward, like sort of like spots on talk shows and things like that. Maybe that's a direction to take Joker in. Like if Joker becomes a celebrity in this post, like if you carry the story forward, the Joker, and it's not in his head, the Joker in terms of the actions he's done in that first film will make him a notable celebrity. And you could kind of go down the whole Hotline Miami 2 route of just like, what if this weird serial killer adjacent figure becomes a celebrity and dissect it that way. Maybe there's more for them to do.
Because at the end of the day, they don't have to adhere to anything that's been done in the Christopher Nolan films or anything like that. They have clearly made a break, and they can do anything they want because they've already shown that they're happy to mess with the continuity of what is and isn't established Batman lore. So maybe they could just go completely off the rails, like you say, and it could be like Jokerland, like where like all of his fans are like there, and he literally can't be touched because he's too popular.
That's what I assume they would a potential route for them to go in terms of if they're going to carry forward the first movie, and if they nail down the idea that all the events of the first movie did happen and they're not just in his head. Personally, I like the idea that this anarchic reality is just bubbling away under the surface, but that's just me.
Well, there we go. I mean, there's a lot of potential for a future Joker 2 if it comes out. But will it come out? Will it happen? It's a case of, will they turn down a hefty paycheck? Probably not, but will they potentially have a great movie? Again, that's up for debate. But let us know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Are you excited, or are you a bit apprehensive about the prospect of a Joker sequel? As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter, and you can follow Scott at
/LP89.
You are damn right you can. I hope you have a fantastic day, whatever you are getting up to. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.